Hey guys, Lonram here for another episode of the Londathal Journal, where I'm recapping the past sessions of the D&D campaign I'm currently running, and we're trying to catch up to my current sessions, hopefully trying to do a couple sessions per episode. So, anyways, on to episode 4. When we had last left the party, they were in the city of Bellend, where the party had just come under attack by a necromancer who was out to capture Mephiance, the party's wizard. Realizing that other attacks may be coming, the party agreed to leave town in the morning, hoping that the evening will pass quietly. Without the money from the Archmage of Ningalin to buy the expensive passage on airship from Bellin to Ningalin, the party decide to pack their things, say goodbye to Hildar Bonesky, say thanks for the adventure, we're out of here, and decide to travel by foot to the Citadel of Bata in order to get on the Courser line, which is a magical railroad, in order to take that back to Ningalin. The Courser lines themselves are basically big bullet trains, at least they look that way, but they're suspended up in the air by like these coruscating swirls of energy and stuff like that that travel on straight paths, and they're a great way to travel between all the major cities that have one of these stops. They're safe, they're secure, and they're expensive, but not nearly as bad as chartering an airship. In order to exit the city, Bellin doesn't have a gate because it is a giant construct city that is literally walking on these huge 6, almost spider-like arachnoid legs. Well, I guess with 6 it'd be an insect, whatever. And you actually have to go to one of these legs and traverse down an enormous spiral staircase that leads from the city up top all the way down to the ground level. The journey down actually takes them basically the majority of an hour in order to traverse, where they're walking with other merchants and some other travelers, dealing with the jarring impacts whenever the leg that they're in actually moves and takes a step. As the party reached down to the ground level, they realized the only map they have is actually the one Dendor Bladeweaver had given Mephiance back in session 1 in his will. It has the ley lines and arcane focuses, these nexuses of power, marked throughout them, as well as some of the major landmarks and waypoints like cities of Londathal. With the survivally inclined paladin Laenagus, they kind of work out and triangulate and figure out, okay, this is where we are, Citadel of Bata is that way. But there's a nexus of arcane energy just a few days south that way. And since we're already out here and nobody's in a rush to get home, let's go check this thing out, especially since anybody who might be after them would expect them to go to the Citadel of Bata, not some random space out in the wilderness. As they travel south, they notice a few odd occurrences. Wolves howling in the north, birds flying at night is kind of odd, but they don't pay it any particular mind. When they arrive at the Nexus itself, they actually find an odd stone structure, almost like a statue, set out in a large clearing. Getting close to the structure, the spellcasters realize they can feel all this magical energy right there at their fingertips. Urjan, who has no magical abilities, is wondering what the heck they're talking about. But the wizard, naturally, wants to experiment and figure out what's going on here. So with a few arcana checks between him and Runner, who, though a rogue, is magically inclined, he's an arcane trickster, they realize, well, this is a funnel of energy. A lot of energy is being pulled down into this point. And so, well, Mephiance decides he's going to channel some of that arcane energy into his ancestral silver sword. I even asked him, are you sure about this? But he was adamant. We were going to do this. So, another Arcana check and a Constitution check. Mephiance is charred, fried, a little sparking, but in pain and alive, and still holding aloft his silver sword, now thrumming and glowing with magical energy. Calling that their end of the day, and not wanting to mess around too much with an arcane construct that could very well kill somebody, the party spend the night and decide that they're going to head to Caham Keep in the morning instead of returning to the Citadel of Bata. Caham Keep is a few days further south, and they can go from there to the great city of Ladilium, which also has a place to stop or the coarser lines. It's on this night, though, Londathal is fed up with these birds flying around at night and calls one down using Speak with Animals. He's able to do so easily, just a simple persuasion check, and inspecting the bird, realizes it's got a little note tied to its leg. And he removes it and realizes, I can't read this. Pass it around to the party. Nobody can read it. They recognize that it's Dwarvish script, but they don't understand the language as it's pronounced, though Runner does kind of recognize it as Goblinoid. He's heard Goblin before. He can recognize those sounds. No idea what it means. So the Kenku, being really good at mimicry, copies it down for future reference, and they put it back on the bird and send the bird away. As the party continues south the following morning, they come across a hobgoblin slave, basically wearing tattered slave's tunic and not much else, running through the forest, scratched up, scraped, some cuts here where branches must have slapped him and things of that nature. And then when the hobgoblin spots them, sprints to them. The party is not sure what to do with this, but as he gets closer, he starts pleading with them in this kind of broken and rough common speech that he's able to speak, but obviously he's not all too practiced at it, begging them for help. Behind the hobgoblin slave are riding goblins on wards, as well as one ward carrying a hobgoblin in the arcane trappings of a war mage. And they are not giving the party any chance to be neutral in this situation. Spells are being loosed from afar. Goblins are riding, it's still a drive-by atop a ward, with their bows, and the party's plunged into this fight. Fortunately, Londathal is atop his leafy elk, we happily call Lafelk, because what else are you going to call it, and take the fight directly to these guys, and Mephiance actually does a lot of counterspelling to cut down the War Mage's spells, which quickly turns the fight into a rout. None are left standing. As the dust settles, the party goes back to the slave, who's cowering on the ground, who introduces himself as Rodolph. He is a hobgoblin slave. Life in the hobgoblin military is strict and orderly, and is not all too bad if you have martial skills or magical talent. But when there are no slaves to work the fields, well, the lowest ranking hobgoblins are put out into the fields because an army marches on its stomach, and Rodolph has not had a good, easy life. Rodolph decides in order to get out of the army, he needs, well, money. So he steals the prize of the warlord, this magical item known as Darren's Instant Fortress, basically a model of a army watchtower or some such thing. Place it down, say the magic word, and poof, a massive 30-foot tall tower appears, and then another word, and it zips right back down. Perfect for the army on the go. And Rodolph has stolen this thing in order to sell it in Ladilium, or whatever city he can get to, in order to pay for passage further south and away from the hobgoblin army that lives within the north. The party is totally willing to have Rodolph along, at least for the time being, as they are all used to being misfits and outcasts among society. And that's where we're going to leave it for now. Thanks for sitting through the whole video. Hopefully you did. And as always, feel free to give me any feedback on the video. If you have any questions about the story so far or the lore of the campaign setting, please let me know. I'm totally happy to engage and chat with you in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you.